All right. Good morning, sixth graders. This is take 2 of day 4 of your distance learning. Mr. Plog coming to you from room 406. It's March 26th today that I'm filming this. We're going to get started on your assignment for today for Trivium. But first, before we do, just want you to remember you should be answering your warm-up first. Okay, so we've got it right here. It's going to be over time. Humans have used stories about animals or inanimate objects to explain how people should behave. And why do you suppose this is? Complete sentences, please. Okay. Now, I personally think that there are a lot of reasons for this. But I think the number one reason really is that children relate to animals pretty strongly, right? I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of students that I've had in the past, or even maybe younger cousins and whatnot, that are into, if I bring, like, when my dog was a puppy, if I brought her around, it was amazing how quickly they would become happy and overjoyed, right? Same with cats and other animals. So using animals is a really good way to get students or children engaged into learning about these lessons rather than just being lectured to. Okay, so your assignment for the next few days here is going to be creating your own fable, which is supposed to teach a lesson. Okay, so in order for us to start, what we're going to do is we're just going to read one of Aesop's fables, who was somebody from the ancient world who was supposed to have written like over 400 or so fables throughout the course of his life. Okay, we're going to get into what makes a fable in a second, but for right now, we're going to read through this together, and we are going to talk about it when we're done. Okay, if you want to pause this video and then read through it yourself, feel free to do so. Okay. A farmer's daughter had been out to milk the cows and was returning to the dairy, or to the dairy farm, carrying her pail upon her head. As she walked along, she fell musing after this fashion, or thought. The milk in this pail will provide me with cream, which I will make into butter and take to the market to sell. With the money, I will buy a number of eggs, and these, when hatched, will produce chickens. And by, I shall have quite a large poultry, chicken yard. Then I shall see some of my fowls, or birds, and with the money which they will bring, I will buy myself a new gown, which I shall wear when I go to the fair. All of the young fellows will admire it and come and show love to me, but I shall toss my head and have nothing to say to them. Very Marie Antoinette-like, I think. And as she's doing that, she's daydreaming and she forgets. So, forgetting all about the pail and suiting the action to the word, meaning she tossed her head just like she thought to herself, she tossed her head, down went the pail, all the milk was spilled, and all of her fine castles in the air vanished in a moment. Okay? So your assignment, and this is going to be given to you on paper, is you're going to rewrite the fable above in your own words. Okay? Now you're going to retell the story, and you're going to amplify the details. When you're retelling the story, you want to maintain the moral. It's another word for a lesson. Okay, this one says, don't count your chickens before they hatch. Now, the moral of a fable is going to be the most important reason why it's told, right? Every single one is going to have a lesson. This is just another saying, but I think in our own words, we could probably come up with some sort of idea or phrase that goes along with the lesson in this story. I'm going to give you a second. I'm going to pause, and you can think of something that would go along with that in your own words, what the lesson is. You can pause the video if you'd like. For me personally, I would say don't plan too far ahead, right? You can come up with all these great ideas and actions that are going to happen in your future, but the bottom line is that life still happens, and all it takes is one little mistake, and everything that you planned so hard for might go away in a second. And if you want proof, holy cow, look at how I'm coming to you right now over a computer screen, right? This is something completely different that we could have never have anticipated happening, right? So that being said, just really quickly, I want to move over to what common fables have. Okay, so this will only take a second. So all fables are going to have these elements, right? You're going to usually have two characters or maybe one that encounters a large struggle. And what I mean by that is like the milkmaid, right? We just read that, really only one character. But at the same time, she does encounter a large struggle, right? And it's in her brain planning too far ahead. There's also a really common fable called The Fox and the Grapes, where there really is only one character again. It's a fox who's trying to get some grapes that are hanging high up on a tree, okay? But at the same time, is he encountering a struggle? You betcha, okay? In fables, animals often are going to take human personalities. We call that personification, okay? Now, it's not always the case, right? The milkmaid is a person, but when we take a look at the Library of Congress website, we're going to see in a second, almost every single one of those Aesop's fables are going to have animals as their main characters taking human traits. But there's one thing that is always a constant in every fable, and that is that there is a moral or a lesson. Now, we're going to take a look at an example tomorrow of what you should be writing, a very good example of a written fable, and that person puts their moral or lesson at the end of their document. You're going to be doing the same thing, okay? Now, secondly, how to amplify. That's part of your assignment. What does that mean? If you think of an electric guitar that isn't plugged in and you strum it, it's pretty remarkable that it doesn't sound much different than a regular guitar, like an acoustic one. But you plug it into that amplifier, that's why it gets its name, and the thing can sound 100 times louder than it normally would, okay? We're going to be amplifying this fable for your assignment. So here's some ways on how to do that. You can change the characters into something else. You can change the setting or the time period in the story in which it's told. You can add details. I think that's the best way to do it, not in the original story. You can change the events of the story, or you can come up with something entirely on your own. But you can't just retell the story as it was originally thought. Otherwise, you're just copying, right? And amplifying means it gets better. I know you can do this, sixth grade. You can make a more detailed piece than a very short Aesop's fable. Okay, now, this is the website that I have on here, and I can put a link on the Google page to help you. But just in case you're looking for it for future reference, if you go to Google and you type in common Aesop fables, you'll see on this Google bar the Aesop for children, and it's from read.gov. That's because it's from our own Library of Congress, from United States Congress in Washington, D.C., okay? Now, you have a list here, and all of those lists, all of those titles are all different Aesop's fables. Holy cow. Now, there are two disclaimers that I want to have here before you start doing this assignment and picking one. Number one, there are two animals that in the day that Aesop wrote this, they were referred to by different names. One is a donkey, and as you see it on here, it will be called an ass. If you are writing about a donkey, you are going to write donkey in your story. Same thing with a rooster. Roosters at the time were called a cock. You will be calling it a rooster if you decide to choose that as your main character, okay? Now, all that being said, if we go back to the Google Classroom page, you have your rubric right here, and this is also given to you in your Trivium packet, okay? There are 4 categories in which you are going to be scored for this. How organized you have it, your content and ideas, that's amplifying right there, just to let you know. Word choice and vocabulary. Are you using 6th grade appropriate vocabulary? Meaning, is it tough enough words for you? And are you not repeating the same words over and over again? And spelling and grammar. Now, for this assignment, the two that people struggle in the most, spelling and grammar, because that's the one that people struggle with the most in every one of them, but also in the content and ideas. Some of you are going to read these stories and say, wow, these are really short. I'm going to use this one because it's going to be way easier. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the reason why you are amplifying, right? So if you pick one that's short, I would argue that you should be working even harder to try to amplify it to make it into a quality piece, okay? Now, I am not going to give you a minimum page requirement on what to do, okay? I will show you an example tomorrow for your workday that might help you try to gauge that. But for now, all I'm going to leave you with is this, okay? We're gonna go back to the Google Classroom page, and I wanna show you the rough draft document that I have set up for you, okay? First thing you're gonna do, you are going to write your last name up here. You will all receive a copy, and you will write your last name in the parentheses. So that way when I print it or when I look at it, I know exactly whose it is, okay? If you're doing this on the computer, I'm going to ask that you do that, okay? Secondly, you have your MLA header. That's gonna be up here. It's at the top of the page, and it goes in 4 rows. We'll go through that tomorrow. If you know how to do that, go ahead and start doing that right away, okay? This is your title. Notice that it's centered. All title words except for articles and prepositions should be capitalized. A huge amount of points are taken off for that. Do not make that mistake. And then you can begin writing here, okay? What I'm asking you to do is to delete these phrases that I have up here and add in your own things, but this will get you started, okay? You may do this on paper, but once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you can, please do it on the computer. It really does make it easier for you and for me to be able to grade it as fast as I possibly can. Okay, that being said, if you move on to your exit ticket for today, by the end of the day today, you should have decided on whether or not you would like to use the example given for a fable or to find your own online or through books that you may have in your home. Which have you chosen? And please answer in complete sentences, okay? You can use the milkmaid and her pail, that's fine. And if you do that, you're just gonna have to amplify the details in your own way, and we'll talk about that tomorrow for your warm-up. But if you can figure what you're gonna do for tomorrow, that's basically all you need to do for today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow for your work day.